In front of a village in Gaul, Rome's huge army is approaching, with the aim of annexing the region to the Roman Empire. However, all previous attempts have failed, as the village is inhabited by Gauls, including the duo of friends, Asterix and Obelix. As well as being skilled warriors, the Gauls count on the help of the druid, Getafix, who is responsible for inventing the magic potion. Seeing that the Roman army has arrived, the druid makes potions for all the inhabitants, except Obelix who, in the past, fell into a cauldron full of the potion. Thanks to the potion, all the villagers gain superpowers and, with them, go through the gates to battle the Romans. Although outnumbered, the strength and agility given by the potion makes the Gauls unbeatable, defeating the soldiers with ease. Obelix says he's tired of facing the Roman army so many times and wonders why they insist on invading the village. As for Asterix, he enjoys each new battle and, with his powerful punches, he finishes off all the soldiers one by one. However, the village wasn't always so hectic and, in the past, the region of Gaul lived in peace and harmony. At that time, Asterix and Obelix were still children, and one day, while playing in the forest, they exchanged gifts to celebrate their friendship. Obelix showed him the wooden dolls he had made of the two of them, and Asterix gave him a 4-leaf clover, which would always bring him luck. Everything was going well in the village, but Getafix feared that this peace would be temporary, as the Roman Empire had chosen a new leader called Julius Caesar. The wizard knows that the new emperor will soon try to take over Gaul, and so he has been working hard to create the magic potion. While he can't get the formula right, Getafix teaches the children of the village, and, in today's lesson, the pupils have to present their work to the whole class. When it's Asterix and Obelix's turn, the two have chosen the effects of poisonous mushrooms as their topic. However, Obelix is so nervous about having to speak in public that he ends up fainting in front of the whole class. Luckily, Asterix manages to improvise, saying that his friend is just showing the effects of eating a poisonous mushroom. Thanks to this, their work is approved and they go out to celebrate, when they run into the village troublemaker, Ceramix. He soon starts pestering the pair, but Asterix tries to protect his friend and proposes a deal. If he manages to break into the druid's house and take his valuable gold inside, Ceramix will have to leave them alone forever. The boy accepts the offer, and, when Getafix goes out to pick fruit, Asterix and Obelix break into his house in search of the side. During the search, Obelix sees something cooking in the cauldron and, when he tries it, he doesn't like the taste and adds some more ingredients. At this point, Ceramix goes to talk to the druid, pretending to have a stomachache and asking him to bring him some medicine. The old man then returns home, forcing Asterix to hide in the closet, while Obelix climbs up a chain, high above the cauldron. Fortunately, the wizard doesn't see the boys and leaves, but Obelix ends up slipping off the chain and falls into the cauldron. The fall causes a powerful explosion and Getafix rushes to see what has happened. He finds Obelix unconscious and rushes to his bed to take care of him. Hours later, the boy finally wakes up with the hunger of a lion, and his family, along with the rest of the village, prepare dishes for him to recover his energy. After eating dozens of different foods, Obelix felt better and went out to play with Asterix. However, when they were having a snowball fight, Obelix threw one of them so hard that it went through the roofs of several houses. Asterix is surprised by this, and the two decide to test Obelix's strength with something heavier. They soon discover that the boy is now able to carry huge stones without difficulty, but they decide to keep it a secret. However, Ceramix reappears and, as the two friends haven't managed to get the gold inside, he declares himself the winner of the bet and intends to attack them both. To his misfortune, Obelix, now stronger than ever, slaps him across the face, sending him flying far away. Just then, Getafix was passing by and realized that Obelix had somehow been affected by the potion. So, to replicate the same effect, the druid asked what the boy had put in the cauldron and, in addition to the ingredients, Obelix remembered the 4-leaf clover that Asterix had given him. However, the plant was melted when he fell into the cauldron and they need to find another one soon. After much searching, they managed to find a 4-leaf clover and, as soon as they put it in the cauldron, Getafix tries the potion and gains superhuman strength. However, the potion has a limited duration and only Obelix, who fell into the cauldron, has a permanent effect. Nevertheless, over the next few years, the druid continued to perfect the formula and, in present times, the magic potion has enabled the Gauls to maintain their independence and defeat the Roman army. The news of yet another defeat soon reaches the Emperor Julius Caesar, who demands explanations from his general, Fast and Furious. He explains that the magic potion makes it impossible to defeat the Gauls and, as a result, their village can never be taken. However, the general's niece, Metadata, claims to have researched everything about Gaul and found a way to beat them, by the big fight. According to Gaulish law, if two leaders of tribes face each other, The winner is entitled to rule the village of the loser. Then the Romans can challenge the Gauls in a duel and, if they win, all of Gaul will finally belong to Rome. Julius Caesar supports the idea and sends Metadata with her uncle to the site to find POTUS, the captain of the armies that have been sent to attack the village. A few days later, they meet the captain, who is resting after another defeat. He is happy to see his general friend and expects him to take care of everything. But Fast and Furious warns him that he needs his help in a new military operation called the Big Fight. After explaining the whole plan to POTUS, the captain orders his soldiers to set up a base in the field to house the general's reinforcements. Next, they need to choose a powerful warrior, but POTUS believes there is no chance of winning because of the magic potion. Metadata suggests arresting the village druid so that there will be no one left to make the potion. Fast and Furious agrees and sends POTUS to do it, but instead of just capturing him, the general orders his colleague to eliminate him once and for all. Meanwhile, in the village, Getafix sets off alone into the forest in search of the ingredients for the potion. Minutes pass and he still hasn't returned, which only makes Asterix worry, so he calls Obelix and his little dog, Dogmatix, to go after Getafix. When they reach the forest, the three find the druid being captured by Roman soldiers disguised as trees. Asterix rushes to save him, but just as he is about to take the magic potion, he accidentally knocks over the bottle and spills it all on the ground. Obelix then decides to intervene and throws a huge rock towards the group. What the man didn't expect was that the rock would fall on Getafix, knocking him unconscious. While the two of them are taking the druid back to the village, the Roman soldiers arrive at the camp to tell them what has happened. They believe that the rock has crushed the druid, which makes Metadata angry, as the plan was only to capture him so that he wouldn't make the potion. However, her uncle Fast and Furious doesn't care and says that now they need to choose the warrior for the big fight. POTUS then suggests a Gaulish friend, but one who is devoted to Rome and will do anything to answer the emperor's call. None other than the troublemaker, Ceramix. They find him in a village, but he has left it in the best Roman style and has even changed his name to Tomius. When he receives a visit from General Fast and Furious, Tomius finds out about the big fight, but refuses to fight because he knows all about the magic potion. However, the general says that the village druid has been defeated and that his victory in the duel is guaranteed. Just then, Asterix and Obelix take Getafix back home, where they meet the village leader, Vital Statistics, and his wife, Impedimenta. The couple try to help the druid, but as soon as he wakes up, the old man acts as if he doesn't know them. It seems that the blow with the rock has made him lose his memory and, worst of all, he no longer remembers how to make the magic potion. Throughout the day, the people of the village do their best to make Getafix recover his memory, but to no avail. Shortly afterwards, Tomius appears with the Roman soldiers and challenges Vital Statistics to the big fight, with the Gaulish leader having to surrender the village if he is defeated. During the conversation, Getafix appears, which makes Tomius believe that the general has lied to him and that the magic potion still exists. He then runs away, but the truth is that the old man is still without his memories and acting as if he's lost his mind. Now that he knows about the Romans' plan, Asterix tells everyone to bring the ingredients and let the druid remember the potion on his own. However, with each new attempt, Getafix makes the cauldron explode and can't remember anything. In the meantime, Tomius returns to camp and tells POTUS that the druid is still alive. The captain doesn't believe it, as he saw the old man being crushed by the rock and sneaks off to the village to investigate. When he gets there, he sees that Getafix has survived, but it's just in time for him to make another explosive potion. As a result, the cauldron is thrown far away and lands on POTUS, who plunges into the river. Back with the group, Getafix makes another potion, but this time it doesn't explode. Asterix suspects that this time, the concoction has worked, but someone needs to try it to make sure it works. Then they see POTUS, trapped in the cauldron and floating in the water, and take him to be the first to try it. With no choice, the captain drinks some and at first, it doesn't seem to have any effect, but instead of gaining strength, POTUS turns green. Asterix asks him not to worry, as they will soon find a way to get him back to normal. But to his misfortune, the attempts only make his skin change color. POTUS orders them to do something and Asterix offers him one last dose. The captain is relieved to see that he's back to his normal color, but the potion has another effect and he starts to float. But POTUS uses this to his advantage and flees. After so many failed efforts, the people of the village realize that they will have to go through the chieftain's battle in the traditional way. As a result, Vital Statistics is forced to train hard for battle, but he has been out of shape for years. Impedimenta then suggests talking to the village healer, called Apotheca, as she may know of a potion to recover Getafix's memories. Asterix and Obelix are chosen to go after the healer, while the leader stays to continue his training. Together with Dogmatix, the two friends reach the gloomy forest, where they find the home of Apotheca, who turns out to be a Gothic healer. Asterix promptly asks for her help to recover Getafix's memories, otherwise the village will be taken over by the Romans. Apotheca accepts and accompanies the two of them to the village, where she finds the druid, still without his memories. The healer then asks what happened, and Obelix explains that he accidentally threw a rock at the old man and that made him forget everything. However, the man decides to show this in practice and drops a rock on Apotheca. Asterix is furious with his friend and asks for his help to lift the rock, but when they try to talk to the healer, she starts making animal sounds, indicating that Apotheca has also lost her memory. Another day passes and the Roman army starts building a huge Colosseum, where the great battle will take place. In addition, they turn the military base into a theme park to attract tourists and raise funds for the Roman Empire. At the same time, in the village, Vital Statistics gathers the council to decide what to do. Now that Getafix and Apotheca are incapacitated, there is no chance of making the magic potion, and defeat is almost certain. As if that wasn't bad enough, Vital Statistics' training hasn't brought great results and he's not strong enough to face Ceramix. At this point, Impedimenta has an idea and suggests changing the village leader, something that is allowed according to the fine print of Gaulish law. Everyone supports the idea, and now it has to be decided who will replace Vital Statistics. Several townspeople, such as the blacksmith fully automatics and the fishmonger unhygienics, offer their services, but no one reaches a consensus and confusion ensues. Minutes later, the Roman messenger appears on the scene, summoning the village chief to the big fight. Faced with his options, Vital Statistics believes that the only hope lies with the Gaul who has held the power of the magic potion from the beginning, Obelix. However, he refuses to take part, as he feels guilty about the whole situation and for having erased the memories of Getafix and Apotheca. Asterix tells him that he has no choice and is now the new head of the village, but Obelix decides to transfer this position to his friend. Asterix retaliates by returning the title of chief to him, and the two begin to argue, handing over the leadership of the village to each other non-stop. Finally, Impedimenta tells them both to stop arguing and tells Obelix that he is the only hope for the Gaulish people. After much insistence, Obelix agrees to be the new chief, as long as the village starts selling wild boar in exchange for fish for lunch. Impedimenta agrees, so Obelix agrees to go to the Colosseum to start the big fight. At the venue, everyone is anxiously awaiting Julius Caesar, who arrives in his royal carriage alongside his mother. The emperor promises that this event will be a birthday present for her, but the grumpy old woman is not impressed and tells them to hurry to the royal box. Finally, Obelix and his friends arrive at the Colosseum, and Vital Statistics hurries to bring food to keep the new leader well fed. Asterix offers to help, and Vital Statistics says that if everything goes well in the fight, he will hand over the leadership of the village to Obelix permanently. However, Asterix doesn't think this is a good idea, as Obelix is too clumsy and insecure to take on such a responsibility. Unbeknownst to him, Obelix has heard everything from the other side of the room and accuses his friend of not believing in his potential. He also says he's tired of always coming second, while Asterix always makes the most important decisions. In response, Asterix says that since childhood, he has always had to do the hard work and solve the problems that Obelix caused for both of them. This only makes Obelix even angrier and, in an impulsive move, he declares Asterix's expulsion from the village. Hurt by this decision, he goes away and leaves him alone in his room, shortly before the fight begins. Finally, the big moment arrives and all the Roman and Gallic people gather on the stage of the Colosseum. Outside, Asterix is on his way out when he sees two boys playing, just as he and Obelix did in the past. He is saddened to realize that their friendship is over, but his attention is soon drawn to Getafix and Apotheca. The two lunatics are playing in the park unsupervised and decide to climb onto one of the rides, which is shaped like a ship's mast. The two of them are about to fall out of the park, and Asterix runs to save them, but as luck would have it, the three of them fall on top of a huge stuffed toy. Asterix is thrown away, but the druid and the healer continue to search the park and enter a labyrinth. As Asterix runs after them, the judge climbs into the ring and announces the contestants. On one side, Tomius appears, the Gaul who betrayed his people and is confident that he will win. On the other side is Obelix, who isn't in the mood because of the argument he had with Asterix, but he decides to fight anyway. With the two of them gathered in the ring, the referee explains that all blows are allowed and the first to give up will be the loser. Finally, he tells them both to say their speeches into the microphone, with Tomius giving a brief salute to the emperor. But when it's Obelix's turn, just as it was during the school's presentation in the past, he doesn't react. Far away, Asterix hears Obelix's voice through the microphone and knows that his old friend must be very nervous about fighting. He rushes towards the ring, but before he can get there, Obelix reaches the limit of his nervousness and collapses in front of everyone. Before the fight has even started, the referee starts counting down. With a few seconds to go, Asterix arrives on the scene and shouts for Obelix, but it's no use and the referee ends the count, declaring Ptomius the great winner. With this unexpected outcome, Emperor Julius Caesar celebrates the victory and sends his legion of soldiers to surround the Gauls. In the middle of the confusion, Getafix appears in the middle of the ring and starts playing with Ptomius's shield, which makes the fighter very angry. He then takes the shield back and strikes the old man on the head, who is thrown out of the ring. Asterix rushes over to help him and realizes that, thanks to the blow, Getafix has finally recovered his memory. However, it was too late and the Romans won their right to rule the village. However, Asterix still has a card up his sleeve and rushes to the top of the Colosseum to challenge the emperor. Julius Caesar mocks the little Gaul, saying that with the outcome of the dispute, everyone now belongs to the Roman Empire. However, Asterix remembers that Obelix expelled him from the village moments before the fight, so he is not part of the agreement and can invoke a new big fight. Just then, the audience begins to react, as everyone is dissatisfied with the end of the battle and wants a real fight. To please the people, Julius Caesar announces that there will be a fight and then he orders his soldiers to fire their secret weapon, 2 retractable catapults. The soldiers then load them with flaming rocks and fire at the Gauls' village, which begins to be destroyed. Everyone is shocked by this attitude, especially Metadata, who refuses to continue supporting the emperor's attitudes and violating Gaulish laws. However, Julius Caesar no longer cares and sends his soldiers to capture Asterix. The young Gaul finds himself surrounded by them, but manages to escape by jumping into the roller coaster and falling on top of one of the carts. Meanwhile, Getafix tries to escape to prepare more magic potion, when he is stopped by Roman soldiers. Shortly afterwards, Metadata appears, saying that she has been ordered by Caesar to take the druid prisoner and she takes him to the cell, along with one of the soldiers. However, in a surprise attack, the young woman knocks the man out with a vase and says that she will help the magician save the Gauls. Back at Asterix's, he manages to escape for a moment, but Fast and Furious and POTUS also jump on the roller coaster and set off after him. Asterix manages to dodge, jumping over the cart they were on, but the general jumps onto the tracks and challenges the Gaul to a sword duel. Meanwhile, the Gauls are still surrounded by soldiers, but Vital Statistics encourages his people to resist. They then defend themselves as best they can, but Obelix refuses to fight for fear of getting in the way again. Dogmatix tries to motivate him, but when he sees that the people of the village are being pushed over a cliff by the Romans, the dog sets off to help them. When this seems to be the end of the Gauls, Obelix uses all his strength to confront the Roman soldiers, knocking them down with powerful punches and slaps. Like him, Asterix also decides to fight and takes on General Fast and Furious, with the two exchanging swift sword blows. At one point, Asterix's blade gets caught in the rail, just as a cart is coming towards him. Fortunately, he manages to get the sword out at the last second and jumps to the rail support, where his opponent is waiting for him for a second round. The battle continues in the Colosseum, while Getafix, with the help of Metadata, manages to reach the village and starts the recipe for his magic potion. As soon as it is ready, the cauldron emits a huge beam of light, which is seen by everyone far away. Asterix knows that the potion is ready, but because of this distraction, Fast and Furious knocks him off the roller coaster. Even so, the little Gaul manages to grab hold of a rope and sets off to find his friends and return with them to the village. On the way, he meets Obelix, who has the idea of getting everyone into the catapult, equipped with wheels. Asterix supports the idea and everyone helps him push the huge machine, which sets off at high speed across the countryside. Along the way, the catapult ends up tipping over and crashing to the ground. The impact causes Apotheca to regain her memories, but the group hurries to reach the village before the fire destroys everything. However, when they arrive at the site, they come across General Fast and Furious and POTUS, who have taken a shortcut across the river. Together with the Roman soldiers, they have captured Getafix and Metadata, as well as the cauldron containing the magic potion. To make sure it's the real thing, the general tells POTUS to try it and, even though he doesn't want to, he obeys the order. It seems that the potion has worked and the captain decides to put his new strength to the test by challenging the Gauls to a fight. Obelix offers to fight him, but with a single punch from POTUS, he is thrown away. Even so, the Gaul is undeterred and strikes back, sparking a battle between Rome and Gaul. However, the general doesn't want to wait for the fight to end and orders all the soldiers to take the potion. Soon, several of them begin to gain powers and advance towards Obelix, who does his best to resist, but is stopped and hit with a powerful punch from POTUS. Finally, the last to take the potion is the general, who orders the entire army to attack the Gauls and end the war once and for all. Despite being outnumbered, Vital Statistics orders his people to advance and they all run towards the enemy army. However, to everyone's surprise, the entire Roman army begins to float in the air. In addition, their skins also glow different colors, and Getafix reveals that he mixed the magic potion with the floating and color-changing formulas he discovered when he had lost his memory. Thanks to this, the entire Roman army is unable to fight and they fly over the Colosseum, their lights shining all over the place. Julius Caesar is not happy about this turn of events. But for the first time, he sees his mother surprised to see the light show in the sky. Even though he is defeated, the emperor is happy with this moment and summons the leader of the Gauls to decide the terms of the defeat. Julius Caesar promises that he will leave the village free and the Gauls can live in harmony, until he changes his mind. With this victory, the Gauls celebrate, until suddenly Ptomius appears, having hidden throughout the battle. He tries to ask for Vital Statistics' forgiveness and for him to take him back, but in response, the village leader punches the man and throws him far away. Days later, the Gauls and Romans celebrate the truce in their rebuilt village. In the middle of the celebration, Getafix accepts metadata as his disciple and Vital Statistics asks Obelix to make a speech so that he can finally lose his fear of public speaking. Then, with Asterix's support, he finally manages to make a speech and dedicates the victory to all the villagers. Thanks to the duo of Asterix and Obelix, the village of Gaul can live in peace and tranquility again, at least until their next adventure.